Well, as we get started, so we're in session one, and uh, first and foremost, the thing I want to point out to you is Cole helped me put together this workbook. He helped me. I had all the notes, and he helped me design it to be like a movie script. So when you look through it, it looks like a movie script, and that is going to be a huge theme for what we're going to cover the rest of the day today and into tomorrow. So it looks like a script. It's got my notes. It's got little jottings in it, things like that, things that we wanted to emphasize. And it's not really designed for you to necessarily, just listen and write down the answer or anything like that. It is designed for you to, if you want to write something down, you can. But for you to go back as we go through this material, if you want to go back tonight, if you want to go back sometime later, revisit it next week. Each page has a series of good questions on it. And it would be important, I would say it'd be incumbent upon you to make sure that you go back. Okay? If you just come to this weekend, have a great time, and then you just put this in your drawer, put it back on your shelf, you're not going to really get a whole lot out of it. But that you would sort of take a few moments over these next few days. It's Valentine's season, so it's just part of the gig to go through and talk and go back over some of this stuff. So the idea of the movie, the idea of the script, the idea of the romantic comedy has been something that I have been teaching for a while, and I'm excited to be able to share some of that with you guys in these next few sessions. Every love story has a script. Every love story has a script. Okay? Every love story has a pretty much basic formula. Almost like every superhero movie has a basic formula. Now, I am way superhero movie. I'm Star Wars guy. But even all of them, there's a very predictable script. No matter what movie you like, whether it's a superhero movie, a Western, a comedy movie, they all kind of have the same thing written into it. And the romantic comedy, or just the romantic story, there's a script to it. There is a sense of attraction. There's these two people. They sort of come together. You sort of know immediately when you're watching the movie, we're pretty sure these two are going to find a way to get together. Once they get together, though, there's always a problem. There's always something that they have to overcome. There's some kind of situation that makes it difficult. It makes it hard for them to figure this out. They come from two different worlds. One is royalty and one is not. One is rich, one is not. One has a crazy ex, a crazy past relationship. One has commitments that are going to keep them from really fulfilling this. Or one's in the military, the Pearl Harbor thing. I got to go fight. I'm not going to see you for years at a time. Any of those things, those are all problems that you want to see them overcome. Even in the very overused trope of the Hallmark movie, they all have these sort of zany, he owns a Christmas tree farm in Tennessee. She comes from New York. She gets sent down there to close the Christmas tree farm, but she falls in love with him. And now we're going to raise Christmas tree farms in a bio-safe, ecological way or whatever, however they're going to do that. Okay. But they all have a script, and we all have a script. Your story has a script. Your story began as creative or uncreative as some of the stories were. Okay, there's a script, and there's a script that you guys have been following, whether you like it or not. There's a script that you've been using in your relationship. So on page 2, the main thing that I want to sort of emphasize is this: that all stories have a structure. All stories have a structure. Your story has a structure. Some love stories were written intentionally, okay? That you have sort of been guiding your story from the beginning, and that's great if you feel like that's the way your story has happened. Most of the time, the story gets handed to you. The story gets handed to you from a situation that you probably inherited. You didn't realize you were walking into this, okay? You may have been dating for a while, and then you realize, oh my goodness, I did not realize your family. Like, wow, I had no idea. Okay, I had no idea. I had no idea what I was getting into and you inherit it. I love you, but I didn't realize I'm getting, man, this is very interesting. And so we all have stories that are either given to us or we try to create them, but your story can't just be left unexamined. You have to really start to get to the point. And to give you sort of a preview for where we want to land tomorrow, your story has a purpose. Your story does have a purpose. And so we're going to talk a lot about that. One of the reasons that couples struggle is because their story is left unedited, or you really don't ask the question why. Why are we together? Why are we together? We all kind of know why we got together. That's why I wanted you guys to sort of share. How did you sort of find each other? How did you propose? All of that. But the question of why are you together is an important one. Why are you still together? Is there a why that is still left in your relationship? So, just to sort of get us down to the roots, one of the things that I'm interested in is how would you describe the script of your relationship? Are you in a good place? Are you in a bad place? And how would you describe your movie? Maybe it is a superhero movie. Maybe it's a comedy. Maybe it's an adventure story. Maybe it's a drama. For some of us, though, unfortunately, and I don't want to call anybody out, some of us might be in a soap opera. How many of you watched soap operas when they were on? Good, thank goodness. Oh, man. You are the soap opera one? We know, okay? Yeah, the power of the soap opera is you could turn it off for about 10 years. You could turn it back on, and you could just see, you could sort of pick up. Okay, which soap opera were you watching?
I haven't watched them in years, but when I was like in my teens and like in my early 20s was
Young and the Restless. Oh, man.
You're right.
Yep.
I watched it for 6 months and I
You know exactly what's going to happen. You just pick it right back up. We don't want that. One of the things that we do like with stories is like a beginning, we like a middle, we like an end. We'd like to have problems solved, or when they come up, we like to see the characters in the story solve the problem. And so that's one of the things that we are going to talk about. Now, one of the things in terms of your dating life, in terms of how your relationship began, all relationships begin with some kind of date. Okay? Some kind of date. You guys had a first date. Now, I will ask you tomorrow to tell me what your first date was. So you answered the proposal question, but I want to know tomorrow what your first date was. So I'll give you some time to sort of think through that one. But there is no love story that starts accidentally. Okay? Look at that. Let's get our story straight. It's like, yeah. Was that our first one? Was that our second one? Exactly. So, one of the things I am going to propose to you, though, is that couples that continue to date stay together. Couples that continue to date stay together. Okay? And the reason I say that is the research, there's all kinds of research, and I spend a lot of time when I'm talking to married or engaged couples, we spend a lot of time talking about this. Because the research points to, there's a lot of things that go into the scary number of the divorce statistics, okay? The current divorce statistics in our country sit right around 50%, okay? Which is terrible. But I will say this, a couple things. If you take out ages 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, if you take out those ages out of those statistics, we actually have a very good marriage rate. It drops to about 25%. So the statistic doesn't really care. It's just the number of divorce decrees and the number of marriage certificates that are given in any given year. Okay? And it always sort of comes out to about 50%. So when folks want to get married at that young of an age, there's a lot of caution. You want to say, hey, maybe you just got to think. Just think about this for a little bit. Just let that thing cook for a little bit. Okay? But when we talk about what keeps that number down, or what keeps that number from becoming a bigger problem, there's all kinds of things that go into it. Your background, your financial situation. Was there divorce present in your family, with their family, that kind of things, all kinds of issues. But the number one thing that researchers point to is the idea of dating. The idea of dating. and that couples that continue to date, they stay together. And that sounds so simple. I mean, that just sounds like the easiest thing. Like, hey, let's just go ahead and wrap this up. We can go to the show tonight because this is a date, okay? But what happens, unfortunately, is that we stop dating after we get together. And whether that's, we have sort of figured out, always in the relationship, you're always trying to figure out, what are we? Okay, that's usually it usually comes from the girl. So what are we? What is our status? And now today, you gotta be able to change the status on your Facebook or whatever. You gotta be able to say, I'm committed, or we're engaged, or whatever it is. So we want to know what we are. Okay, once you are something, the idea of dating tends to fade. So whether you're engaged, married, whatnot, the idea of dating, it fades. And for some couples, it completely falls off the cliff. Now, that's not intentional. It's not like, for some of you, I worry, hey, I gave you the ring, and now I'm not going to take you to Chili's anymore. So no, that's not really how that works, okay? What happens with most couples is we move into a place called assumption. We move into a place called assumption, okay? Assumption is a very safe word. Very safe word. I worked very hard on the assumption. If I'm going out, I assume that Misty's going with me. That's a great assumption. Okay? There's a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of work that went into this assumption. Okay? And the other idea that happens with couples is the fact that we can spend all day together. We can spend all day together. And like during COVID, y'all remember COVID? Okay, that was 6 years ago. Do you realize that? That was 6 years ago. This weekend, it was starting to rumble in 2020 that all of a sudden we're going to have to start washing our hands or something. But during that season, you couldn't really go out. And I remember it was like we had this whole thing. Tonight I'm going to take you to the romantic living room. Tomorrow night I'll take you to the romantic kitchen. Okay, and we had to sort of figure all that stuff out. But the idea of assumption, or time spent together, is, if you look on page 4, it created something. There's this idea of spending time together, or there's the idea of time served. Okay? And it's very important to know the difference between time together and time served. Okay? If you're doing time served, that's Shawshank Redemption, which is a great movie. It's not really a romance, okay? But there is something about the whole idea of dating. There's something about this that if Misty and I are in the house all day, usually we're getting stuff done. We're cleaning, we're organizing, we're fiddling with the house in some way. She's doing laundry or something. I mean, we're just constantly doing something. But there's something different about the idea of being in the house together and then stopping and going out. There's something about that. There's something about that whole activity. And the reality for most of us is that we do not plan our time together. We don't plan our time together. Okay? We're just together. And that's part of the whole courtship thing. Like you got engaged, you're married, but we don't really schedule time together. In fact, one of the things that I hear all the time is when I talk to couples, or I've heard couples say this, is that especially if a couple's in trouble, there will be a counselor. Some guy like me will say to them, hey, you two need to spend time together. Or they'll say this ingenious idea, you need to work on your relationship. You need to work on your relationship. And we're like, yeah, you're right. What is that? What do you mean? Like, what do you mean? Work on the relationship. How does that happen? What do you mean? I know how to work on my car. I know how to work on stuff in the basement, but how do you work on the relationship? And we really don't spend a lot of time planning time together. Okay? We need to continue something called pursuit. That you did this when you were courting. One of you did this. One of you was chasing. Probably both of you were chasing each other. But you need to go back into what we call intentionally planning your time together. You need to go back into planning to make sure that you're doing this, okay? So, what I've taught for years, there's something called the date challenge, okay? And this is where we're going to start off our weekend. This is a very simple idea, okay? Dating does not have to be complicated, okay? However, it does need to be intentional. It does need to be something that is intentional, that you do need to plan, okay? So, if you look on page 6, there's something that is called the date challenge, okay? And I know we're skipping over a lot of stuff. A lot of this stuff you guys can just go back and sort of look through it together on your own. I'll give you some time to do that, okay? But at the top of that, there is a definition of a date, okay? If you have not ever looked up the dictionary definition of a date. Now, there is a thing that most of us, getting to a certain age, we should all do. Number one, you should eat the brown, oblong, edible fruit of a palm tree, okay? Yes, so those things keep you regular and all that. But that's not the one I'm interested in, okay? I'm not going to serve any dates this evening, okay? But the second idea and the third idea are important. The second idea, an appointment to meet at a specified time. But number 3, a social engagement between two persons that often has a romantic character, or a person a person with whom one usually has a romantic date. Okay. For the purposes of our weekend, for the purposes of tonight, a date is a planned activity. A date is a planned activity. It is not this thing where you have two people sitting in the car and they say, "What do you want to eat?" "I don't know." "Where do you want to eat?" "I don't know." "Where do you want to eat?" "I don't know." "Where do you want to eat?" That is not a date, okay? That is figuring out dinner. That is just figuring out dinner, okay? Okay? So, yeah, that's the date. So, this is the challenge. This is the challenge, okay? The challenge is this. The first is this. Rule number 1. You need to go on a date once a week, okay? Now, some of you think, "Oh, my goodness, that's a lot. That's a lot. Oh, wow." And I'll simply say this. You got married to be together. You got married to be together. You got married to spend time together. If I put you on a time machine and put you back at that time when you were just spending time with each other, and that's really all you want to do. "What are you doing tonight?" "I'm just going to spend time with you." "What do you want to do tomorrow?" "I'm just going to spend time with you." "Oh, what are you going to do this weekend?" "I'm just going to spend time with you." "Oh, it's so exciting." And then I stop spending time with you and I call you. "I miss you. I only saw you like 5 minutes ago, but I want to talk to you." Okay. Now we really don't. It's really hard for us to find time to actually spend time together. So rule number one, okay? Rule number 1, you got to go on a date once a week. Okay? Now, it does not mean prom night every Friday. Okay? It does not mean anything, you don't have to break. And that's usually the thing that people push back on. "Well, you can't afford that. I mean, who's got, have you seen Longhorn? That's an expensive place now. But it is a planned activity. It is a planned activity. Okay? Now, it doesn't have to be date night. It can be date day, date morning, date lunch, date brunch, date Tremont coffee. It can be whatever. It can be whatever. Okay? Date weekend, this counts. One of you, the first one that claims this weekend, you already win. Okay? But it could be anything. It could be anything. I'm much more interested in consistency than creativity. But creativity doesn't hurt. Okay? If you are creative with this, that's great. Okay? Rule number 2. When I'm working with engaged couples, one of the things that I do with engaged couples is we have a very specific rule for number 2. For them, the rule is no wedding talk. Okay? No wedding talk. So when they're engaged, they're getting married the next 6, 8, 10, 12 months. The rule is very simple. You cannot talk about the wedding. Why? Because that's all they're talking about. But when you talk to an engaged couple, that's it. All they are. They've gone from this weird romantic thing to they've gone into event planners. And it's a very stressful thing. And if any of you have children that are getting married, it is not what it used to be. Some of us had some very simple stories. No, today it's a whole industry out there, and it's crazy. And so these folks literally have to plan for months and months and months. So my rule with them is very simple. No wedding talk. You can't talk about the wedding. And you'll be shocked at how hard it is when you're sitting at the restaurant to not talk about it. And so that's part of the challenge, and I'll hear back from them afterwards. Now, we're not having any, this is not a rule for us, but I have it called no blank talk. Okay, it sounds like I'm censoring myself. No. No blank talk means you fill in the blank. There is a conversation that you find yourself in all the time. And there is a conversation that you find yourself stumbling over all the time. Whatever that conversation is, figure it out. And you might stumble as soon as you mention that's the conversation that we all stumble in. That's the risk of it, unfortunately. But whatever that conversation is, whatever that conversation you find yourself getting stuck in, maybe it is about the kids, maybe it is about finances, maybe it is about church or whatever. It can be, stuff that's going on at work, stuff that's going on with your neighbors. If you have a conversation that always seems to be the sand trap, that's the one. And you guys get to fill that in on your own. No blank talk. Okay? No blank talk. The third rule, and this is where it gets fun. This is where it gets fun. It's called alternate who plans date night. Okay? Now, date night dies for a number of reasons. The main reason that date night dies is typically date night is up to the guy. Okay? And it's the gentleman chivalrous thing to do, all of that. But between me and all the other guys in here, if we're honest with ourselves, we have like 3 good dates. And we've spent them by now. Okay? We've spent them. And so we spend the rest of our lives coming up. Well, we try to recycle. We try to recycle those dates to see if they still work. Because this worked 20 years ago, this should still work now. Or there's a thing called the guy phrase, okay? And all guys know this, and I don't know who taught this to us, but the guy phrase goes like this. Hey, I'll do whatever you want to do. I'll do whatever you want to do, okay? And we think that works. We think that works. And we like, man, yeah, we're going to have a great time. And I didn't think of anything. And the girl's usually kind of focused on the he didn't think of anything part. But we think that works. So the way this should really function is this, is that however you are going to do this, is that you're going to alternate, okay? So, guy, you were in charge for the first week. You're in charge. Then, girl, you were in charge the second week. And you rotate. You go back and forth. You go back and forth. Now, again, it does not, have to be a huge financial thing. In fact, you can make that part of the challenge, okay? Say, hey, we're going to try to do this under $50. We're going to try to do this on whatever budget we have, okay? But it's not, you don't have to go crazy on it. But the consistency is this, is that you have to alternate. You have to go week after week after week. Okay? That it's actually in your schedule. It is actually something that is on your calendar. Now, a couple of sub-rules. One is this, is that you have to do something that both of you like. Okay? I know. I know. So, no, yeah, so this is not, yeah. So, you have to do something you would like, okay? And we're not doing anything dangerous, okay? We're not, no skydiving, no, don't go to that bar with the mechanical bull in the middle, and none of that, okay? And now, the other sub-rule is, and this it only applies to those who it applies to, okay? Target is not a date. Target is not a date, okay? Whoever that applies to, okay? Target is not a date, okay? Because we could get like coffee, and we'll get things done, and no, that's called shopping. That's called shopping with you. That's what that is, okay? That's not how that works. That's not how that works, okay? Good. Now, also, Lowe's is not a date either. So Lowe's is not a date either, just to clarify. Lowe's is not a date, Home Depot, none of those. Target, that's how they try to sell it. That's how they try to do it. They try to say Starbucks is there. Yes, that's how that works, okay? But the fourth rule is, and we're going to spend some more time on this tomorrow, but the fourth rule is very powerful. The fourth rule is very simple. You have to ask the question. You have to ask the question, okay? What's the question? What is the question? The question. Will you go out with me? Will you go out with me? Okay? Now, you could do, yes, yeah, you can Ferris wheel. You can act all that out. You got to be cool, dude, coming across the field in the trench coat. That was how that worked, okay? And the reason this question is so important, well, there's actually a couple reasons. One, you probably haven't asked this question in a while. You haven't asked this question in a while because of assumption. I assume that if I go, you're going with me. And again, that is a great assumption. The other reason this question is so powerful is we are designed for this question. We are designed for this question. In fact, I showed you 3 movie clips. There's hundreds. I mean, we could spend hours just finding the clips where the question is asked in these movies. And we watch them over and over and over again. And we wait for that moment to happen. Now, how many of you were fans of the show Friends? Okay? Friends, some of you were Friends fans, all right, okay? Friends, that show, all of those shows, there's something built into all of those shows. There's a tension that's built in. You kind of knew Ross and Rachel were going to get together eventually if you watch the show, okay? But you couldn't do it. You couldn't do it for seasons because as soon as they get together, then there's this weird tension that is released, and then everybody loses interest because there's so much power in this question. But every love story, there is a question. And in that question, there is an invitation. Okay? Will you go out with me? Will you get coffee with me? Can I dance with you? Can I court you? If you're watching like the Bridgertons or any of those shows, can I see you during the courtship or whatever? I'll ask permission or whatever. But there's always a question. There's always something there's an invitation. Okay? There is, will you join me in this moment? And all romantic movies, all romantic stories, they all have the same structure. Will you do something with me? And again, there is no assumption in that. And so there was a point, and what's powerful about all of this is the question is part of the romance. Once you get past the question and once you move into assumption that no one's asking any more questions, then that's when the romance starts to fade. But there are these 2 cool words that I want to introduce you to. They are very big, huge scientific words. Okay? On page 8. They're long, super hard to pronounce. Okay? The 2 words are woo and pursue. Woo and pursue. Everybody say woo with me. Woo. That sound. Woo. Okay? We haven't used the word woo in a while. Okay? You may have never used the word woo. Okay? To woo someone. Okay? To try to win someone's heart. To try to win someone's affection. Okay? Now, when you were trying to date, trying to impress somebody, we did use some words. We thought these worked. At least guys think these work. There's a thing called woot and pursuit. Okay? Now, some guys think if all they do is go up there and go woo woo, they think that's going to work. No, that is not going to work. Okay? Maybe it did for you for a little bit. Or the idea of pursuit. I did chase you, and I caught you. Okay? And now I caught you, and now we're good, right? Let's go back to the house. No, there is constance to this. There is a pattern that we're going to continue to go on. So it's not just something that you do at a one time. You're going to continue to do these things. That you are in the process. You are trying to still woo the person next to you. Okay? So this is just for the guys. Just for the guys real quick. Okay? Do you have any unused pickup lines that you haven't used? Okay? And if you have not used them, this is your opportunity. You can pull them all out to see if they work, to see if they're going to work. Okay? Did it hurt when you fell out of heaven? You know, like all those. Yes. Did it hurt? Yes. I can't find my phone number. Can I have yours? Can I have yours? Okay. So you have a chance here. All those that you did not use, you get to use them. Okay? And it's a very powerful idea that you're going to continue to do this. You guys have probably not, for a while, have been in the woo business or the pursue business. Okay? And I'm going to invite you to come back into that. And so the question is an important part of this, that you have to ask this question, and you have to ask it over and over and over again. Okay? Now, did she leave? Oh, great, I get to talk about her. Oh, there she is. All right, I am married to someone who never forgets anything. Okay? How many of you are married to one of those? Oh, man, I am married to one of those. They never forget anything. Okay? Do you remember we were in the kitchen and you were wearing that shirt and you said this and I'm like, I don't know what I ate for lunch. What are you talking about? Okay. But it's weird because you will forget. You will forget. And you would think, we're married. How could you possibly forget? We all have this, okay? We all have the ring on. Like, how could I possibly forget? But our heart tends to forget. We tend to forget. The last time you said something nice to me, the last time you complimented me, the last time you noticed my hair, the last time you noticed what I was wearing, anything like that. And we have to be in that business all the time. We have to be in the woo and pursue business. I had a guy tell me one time, he had this incredible line. He said, I told my wife that I loved her. If I change my mind, I'll let her know. Like, yo, that's not going to work. That is not going to work. That is not going to work. That is not going to work. No. Okay? You have to constantly be in the woo and pursue business.